Hope everyone's doing well. They got to have a little break out there during the summer, or they're still on vacation. We know, Tim, the market actually cooled down a little bit, which it does, so it's not surprising over the summer. Tim's going to go through the numbers in a little bit, but it normally happens, Tim, during the summer.
Yeah, we're going to see a little bit of a dip. Actually, it's just the increases are slowing down. We're still seeing increases month over month, but the increases are slowing down. So we're not really seeing the market as a whole slow down. We'll go through the numbers, like Azad said, in quite a bit of detail.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, and we're very excited because we've been seeing properties come on the market that we show interest in and show our clients to, and we're off to the races going to see them. We went to see one on Saturday, was it? We went to see one, and we went to compare another one. Both were in Minapore, and we tied that one up straight away just because the numbers made sense. It's already rented, this property. We're actually going to do a video on it so everybody can see what we're buying. But congratulations to Tim and Yemi, who are doing a joint venture on this property. We've helped them through, we've helped Tim, this is probably his third or fourth property.
Yeah, he's quite active.
So he's quite active, and congratulations on the boys for getting another property. If you are new to us tonight, please use the chat, turn off your videos and turn off your sound. If you could be muted, that'd be awesome. But please use the chat throughout the presentation. We're happy to answer any questions at all. Of course, today we have our mortgage broker that we've been working with since 2006.
Yes, Danielle DeMarco. She's our mortgage specialist, and funny enough, the title of this seminar is How to Qualify for More Rental Properties. So we've got her here to go through every aspect for investors and non-investors as well. So
yeah. And what I love about this topic, Tim was talking to me about it today. A lot of people get caught up on the interest rate, and we understand that is a huge part of investing in real estate. But sometimes choosing the wrong mortgage can put you off track on buying more properties. And Danielle will get into that for sure. And that's why it's always beneficial to talk to people that are in the know, especially if you want to own more than 1, 2, 3 properties. You need to structure it properly. I know when we send people to Danielle, she puts them through a strategy planning session, and we work out exactly how we're going to get there. Either it's a move-up program, or we're doing mortgage plus improvements, or we're putting 5% down on a move-up program and staggering it so we buy more and more real estate. We'll get into that later. For the new people, my name's Azad.
And I'm Tim.
For those that don't know us, we've been doing this for a number of years. This is actually our 147th seminar. So thank you to everybody that has been following us over the years. We're nearly going to get to that magic number of 150 seminars. We used to hold these in person before COVID. We love that, actually. We used to have a room that would fit over 100 people in the room. We used to fill it up every second Tuesday. And it was great to be around like-minded people. Now we've moved on to an online platform, and that's working out. When we do come out of COVID, Tim, I think we're going to do a mixture where it will be in person and it will be online as well. For the
yeah, and this picture right here, it's when we're on the Remax iRealty podcast. That's something for maybe 2022, where we start a podcast going and do that maybe every second week, alternating with the live seminar. So that's something in the works right now. Hopefully we'll get to be able to roll that out in 2022.
Yeah. Right now we're sitting at 4,447 members. So thank you. We're trying to get to 5,000 at the end of the year. If you do like what you hear tonight, please tell your friends and family. We'd love them to join in. It's free and it's beneficial. The main reason why we do this, you may be sitting there asking, why are these guys giving all this information out? First of all, we were investors first. We became realtors 16 years ago. And we've been teaching people how to invest in real estate the right way, with no nonsense, no BS. And our main aim is to create millionaires for our investors. And how do we do that? We choose the right properties for our clients. We don't go out and show you any properties. We've got about 20 people right now on the books wanting to see properties. We looked at the list today. We're like, oh my goodness, we got to get to work, but it's not like that. We're waiting for the right property. We're not going to throw our clients into any given property and hope for the best. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with it. When people buy the properties we choose for them, they actually go through our landlord training, they go through our business planning. And we treat this like a business, you know, and it's,
Yeah, back to choosing that right property. Our last seminar was thrown on the YouTube channel, and anybody can watch it. You don't have to be a member, but it goes through some examples, 3 different property examples of what makes a good rental property: an apartment, half duplex, and a single family home. You can go online and take a look at that thing. It's on Crew TV, and it shows you how we go through the process of choosing the right investment properties for our clients.
yeah, and now we're both back from holidays. We're looking forward to getting into more filming our investors on what properties they're buying, so we can showcase that to you guys. And once again, that last seminar is on Crew TV. We want to put that up there so you folks at home can analyze properties and work out the numbers for yourself to see if investing is for you. And we have to stress, investing isn't for everybody. We know all the other groups out there, especially the American-based courses, they make it sound so easy. It is easy. We need to stress this. It is easy if you're following a system. We've created a system that we know is definitely working for Canadians. It could be implemented anywhere in the world, but we've gone through this, Tim, and had our ups and downs over the years, and we've put a program together that our clients follow. Every single client has to go through this, and at the end of the day, they become millionaires by doing it. So it's awesome. We've written 2 books. One book is called Fearless Real Estate. This book here, and I always say Rich Dad Poor Dad was my favorite book and got me into real estate investing. But the problem after Rich Dad Poor Dad was that I had no idea how to move forward. Fearless Real Estate gives you all the tips and tricks that you need. We don't hide anything. There is no magic solution here. We just go through what our clients have done and what we've done to live the life.
Yeah, and that's the key.
We want to live.
That's the key. It's stories about what our clients have done. So we're not just making this stuff up as we go along. Each section and each real estate strategy, investment strategy in this book is about one of our clients. They've done it, they've had success with it, and we're relaying it over to everybody else. So it shows that our clients are having success doing many, many different real estate investment strategies.
Yeah, we've also written another book, which is a free download, and we've written this book just for that reason. For people that are thinking of getting investing in real estate, they can download the book and see exactly what is needed, how you get involved. And that book is on our website, same as Crew TV, the YouTube channel. You just visit www.calgaryrealestatewealth.com and you'll find our free ebook. You can sign up for our Crew TV and you'll start learning everything you need to know, which is awesome.
Yeah, so before we jump into Danielle's presentation, we've got a couple of things to go over. The first thing we're going to go over is what's the state of the market right now. Here we go. So we've got the numbers up here that I just pulled off of the Calgary Real Estate Board site this afternoon. And the ones I want everybody to look at are 2021, and we've got the year to date. I just got to move some things around on my screen. So the year to date numbers, the increases over 2020. And if you look at the sales down here, year to date, we're at 106% of the sales versus 2020. So what we're seeing is what we totally expected as we come out of the lockdowns and COVID is started. We're starting to get a grip on it, and governments are winning the battle against it. All of the activity that was stifled last year because everybody was locked down, it's all being unleashed. So we're up 100% is sales wise. New listings, they're up 50%. Last year, a lot of people were hesitant to put their houses on the market because they didn't know whether anybody was going to go through them and buy them. So this year, that hesitancy is gone. Listings are way up. But what we found is listings are up, but good quality rental property listings, we really have to keep an eye out for them because they get snapped up right away. There's a lot of investors with a lot of potential out there just waiting to grab it. So when we are ready to go, we have to grab them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just quickly on the market update. If you're on our Facebook page, Calgary Real Estate Wealth Facebook page, Tim and I posted on there that Calgary rental rates have risen. Did you see this in here? I don't know if you can. You can, if you guys are on Facebook, not everyone's on Facebook, but we started posting on there to help you guys read these articles, understand what's going on in the market, and also share this with potential joint venture partners. Whenever you see positive articles like this, like rental prices going up 14% over last year. That is huge. Okay, I know I posted something a couple of weeks ago that there was companies moving into downtown Calgary from other cities. That is huge as well. I know Tim's got an article coming up about immigration. That is huge. So whatever you can find that is positive, you should be sharing it with your potential joint venture partners or your significant other, if that's what's holding you back moving forward. Whatever it takes, now is the time to invest in Calgary. We can't wait to see what unfolds in the next 3 to 5 years. Oil is at a price that we want it to be at. They don't even need it to go higher to keep a profit going. Tim will show you the next slide shortly, but there's lots and lots of positive things coming to Calgary, which we're very excited for. And if you're not from Calgary and you're listening from somewhere else, because we do have people following us from all over actually, you got to find the positives in your area and what's going on. We love that Toronto, Vancouver, even Montreal, the prices are bananas, right? And then you look at Calgary and it's still affordable here, which is awesome.
Yeah, you look at the average price, it's only gone up 10% from last year. This bottom, the bottom column here, bottom right hand of the screen, 10.33%. That's all that the prices have gone up over 2020. And you look at the bigger markets like Vancouver and Toronto, and you're at 50, 60, 70%, depending on what areas that you are in the Lower Mainland and what areas you are in the Golden Triangle over in Southern Ontario. Calgary is still very affordable. That's one thing that our clients are finding, because we can still find them cash flowing properties in really, really decent neighborhoods very close to the downtown core. The other one is days on market. It's down 34%. So you're seeing the properties sell a lot faster. Another thing I want people to look at is the trends. So while we're still seeing, these increases, the increases are starting to go down. So the trend is, property prices, yes, they're going to increase, but they're going to increase at a slower rate. Same thing about the sales. The sales will increase, but at a slower rate. So what we're seeing is the market is finally starting to, maybe the huge aura that the market had at the beginning of the year, because everybody's just coming out of COVID, it's starting to slow down a bit, and we're moving more towards a balanced market. So we're going to see less competing offers as the years go on. And that will be better for investors as well.
Yeah, and that's what we want, a balanced market. Next year, what we're going to see is the market have an uptick again. Is it going to be like this year's 10%? Who knows? It might not be far off. It might be around 7, 8%. But all we bank on our numbers for our clients to create $1 million worth of equity is 3.5%. So we're well above that right now, and we see that continuing for the next few years, which is awesome.
Yeah, and Tim Reed put a comment in the chat right there. When property prices in Windsor have gone up over 40%. And Windsor is quite a distance from Toronto. It's more of an auto hub, manufacturing. So, you get closer to downtown Toronto and you're going to see increases closer to 100%.
Yeah. Tim, just one thing on that, what Tim Reed has just mentioned there, 40% in Windsor, and you see this in Hamilton and areas like that, right? What happens, and I've seen this when I was investing in Sydney, Australia, what happens is that it just gets too expensive. People start investing in places like Hamilton. Hamilton's what, a couple of hours away from Toronto? I don't even know. So I know people catch a train from downtown Toronto to home. People do that every day. But anyway, people get sick of that, and it just gets ridiculous. The prices get too crazy, and then they look for other markets. And in Australia, I know like places like Adelaide and Brisbane and Perth and Hobart. No one even knows where Hobart is. And even that went through the roof. Calgary is so affordable, and we've been saying this for years, that we can't wait to see what happens. I flew out of Winnipeg. I was at Lake of the Woods, Ontario 2 weeks ago, the last seminar. And I flew out of Winnipeg and I spent a couple of days there visiting my wife's family. And places there have even gone up $100,000 in the last 3 to 5 years. So if Winnipeg can do it, I could definitely tell you, Calgary has a lot more to offer. The infrastructure here, I have family visiting Stampede, and they just can't believe the infrastructure that we have here, which is unbelievable. You're an hour away from the mountains. Office vacancy is at the all-time low. Things are going to turn around, and if you own property or are getting into property, you couldn't have picked a better time.
Yeah, and speaking of the infrastructure, all the roads are here. So you got the transportation here. My sister was visiting from Vancouver a couple weeks ago, and she was just marveling at driving on the ring road, especially the new portion of the ring road in the southwest. Because as you know, if you've traveled to Vancouver or you're from Vancouver, it's 2 lanes to get in and to get out of downtown. There's bridges that are bottlenecks, there's roads that are bottlenecks. It's just, they don't have the land to expand all of their transportation corridors like we do. So, you know, when the city is looking and the province is looking at attracting new companies to come and, you know, look at downtown Edmonton or downtown Calgary, or even downtown Red Deer as a place to put their headquarters, you know, we have these huge advantages because, you know, we've got all this land, we've got all the housing, we're close to the recreation, we're close to the mountains. You know, Calgary has such huge pluses compared to these giant cities like Vancouver and Toronto. So to move on, we'll get away from the stats right now because I know Danielle's going to get going pretty quick here. We found this article a few days ago. It was from Reuters. Canada is on track to meet our 2021 immigration target, which is over 400,000 people. And this is, you know, the first half of the year, we were locked down quite a bit. So what you see with that is when there's 400,000 immigrants coming into Canada every single year, and we were hearing rumors that they're trying to bump it up to 450, 475 to make up for last year, 2020, where it was only around 200,000. All of these people have to live somewhere. So if you're in the rental property game, guess what? You know, they need to live somewhere. So you're offering them you're helping them out when they move to Canada. The next slide here is housing starts versus population growth. Now, the squiggly line here is housing starts year to year. The trend is the solid line, and the dotted line is population growth for the last 25 years. And what you can see is right around the last boom that we had, 2005, 2006, is population started to pass housing starts. So what we've seen in the last 15, 16 years, or is that, yeah, in the last 15 or 16 years, is new housing hasn't kept up with the population growth in Canada. And you can see that all across Canada since the early 2000s, our property prices have pretty much increased all across Canada. To a huge extent in Toronto and Vancouver, they went from average prices around 280,000 for an average house in downtown Vancouver, or sort of in metropolitan Vancouver, to well over $1 million is the average price today. And that's because the new housing starts haven't kept up with population growth.
Yeah, and what we're seeing downtown Calgary, the condo market has been terrible for the last 10 years, and we finally can feel we're at the bottom of the turnaround, which is awesome. If you look down at town and if you look behind us here, there's no cranes in the sky. So building starts have stopped, which is awesome. And then you've got this immigration that's going to happen, or migration that's going to happen, and there's not going to be enough condos for them. So finally, you'll see an uptick in condos, which we've been feeling the pain for quite some time. So exciting times.
Yeah, and just the tail end of this graph here is coming out of the pandemic. There's been a flurry of housing starts. So you will see these blips where, you know, the housing starts for a couple of years, you know, outpace population growth. But as a whole, if you look at the division between the two lines, population growth and new housing starts, there's a huge gap there, and it's been going on for years and years and years. And what we see into the future is, with all the new green regulations coming in and new building codes, it's going to become more and more expensive to build new homes and to build new condos. So that gap is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's only going to drive property prices higher and higher and higher. So that's what we're seeing. If you're in the game now and you're owning properties, you're going to start to see that capital appreciation more that we saw in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and we've been selling or buying properties for people out of province all year. And I think that's going to continue. And these people, we bought a beautiful property in Marta Loop, $100,000 less what the person paid for it. And they were just happy to come in, buy it. And they're going to make a killing on it, right? We've got a guy in Toronto looking to buy right now. He's not even here. We just bought the house last weekend for a guy in Winnipeg. He's not even in the city, and he's choosing to invest here. So if you want to learn more, you can reach out to us. I know Danielle's coming up If you just joined us, please use the chat if you can. For any questions at all during the presentation, we can reach out to Danielle and get that to her during her presentation. And if you have any other questions, let us know.
Yeah, so like Danielle asked us to monitor the chat. Any questions you have during her presentation, just put it in the chat and we will relay it over to her, and hopefully she can answer all these questions in real time. So we'd like to introduce Danielle DeMarco, who works with Mortgage Line. She's our real estate investment mortgage specialist. She deals with tons and tons of real estate investors. She does a great job. She'll explain how she puts people through the process and how she gets the right mortgage for each property. I'm just going to go ahead and make her the host. She can share her screen and then we'll get going.
Awesome. And I know right now Danielle's working with 35, I think we got a list off her the other day, 35 of our clients right now. And some of those clients aren't ready to go. So Danielle might speak to that later on as well, that there is some planning that sometimes she has to put things in place to make it all happen, which we can talk about later as well. Hey, Danielle.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Hello. Okay, you guys let me know. Can you see what I'm supposed to be showing?
Yep, we're looking at your screen, your first slide.
Perfect. Excellent. So thank you for the introduction. I am Danielle DeMarco and I am a mortgage planner. I've been a broker for over 15 years, worked with Tim and Azad for most of those years actually. And tonight I just kind of wanted to touch base on the differences really between a standard mortgage, if you are a home buyer purchasing a home to live in, versus an investment mortgage. So if your goals are to invest in properties and how we set those mortgages up is critical to the success of your plan. Things to consider such as mortgage terms, amortizations, interest rates, things like that, as well as different type of mortgage products. So Azad touched on this earlier, are we doing a purchase? Are we doing purchase plus improvements? Are you doing a flip? Are you looking at refinancing down the road? And in just kind of talking about what the process is when you guys come to me and then when you go to Tim and Azad. So normal mortgages. So we've all, kind of grown up with our parents in our heads saying, pay down your mortgage, pay down your mortgage, pay down your mortgage. So when you're buying an owner-occupied home and you're not looking at necessarily investing, yes, the goal may be to pay down the mortgage, get that principal paid off as quickly as possible. Goal may be lowest interest rate to save on interest costs. And some people's goal is the 20% down payment. Same thing. Parents may say, don't pay that CMHC fee. Let's put 20% down. Now, in comparison, investment financing, we have different goals. So monthly cash flow tends to be a higher priority per se. Mortgage terms can oftentimes be more important than mortgage rates. And I'll get into more of that a little bit later. And minimum down payment, you'll hear Tim and Azad talk a lot about leveraging your position. So leveraging your cash. You have $100,000. Is it better to buy 3 or 4 properties using that 100 than it is to purchase one with 100,000 down? So we'll get into that again, but these are all things that's really important to consider. So when you're hiring a broker or hiring a real estate agent, it's really important to use someone that specializes in investing. From Tim and Azad's perspective, finding the right property, not letting you just buy any property because it fits your budget. From my perspective as a broker, making sure we set up those purchases in the right order, because believe it or not, qualifying for 3, 4, 5 properties, if you do it in the wrong order or use the bank in the wrong order or the wrong product in the wrong order, it can really, really affect how many properties you can add into your plan. So important things to consider: amortizations, rates, rental income calculations. So to start with amortizations, 30-year amortizations are fantastic. They are only applicable when you put down 20%. So there's a trade-off there, leverage versus amortization. If your plan is to put down 20%, if you're cash heavy, you have a lot of cash that you can do 20% down on multiple properties, then we do like to extend our amortizations out to 30 years for a few reasons. One of which is it lowers your payment. So that helps you from a cash flow perspective. Monthly cash flow will be greater, obviously, the lower your mortgage payment is. Another reason is because we allow for maximum qualifying. So when we're adding in multiple properties, we have to add in the mortgage debt for each of those properties as we're trying to qualify for additional properties. Obviously, the lower your payment is on the mortgage, more positive cash flow as compared with the rental income, the easier it is to help you qualify for additional properties down the road. And writing off interest. So this is something to speak with an accountant about. So reach out to Tim and Azad if you need any connections, you guys. We have lawyers, insurance, accountants, everybody that can help you succeed with your investment goals. So writing off interest on rental properties. So when you take a 30-year amortization, typically nowadays, the interest rates are a little bit higher on 30 years. But you're also paying more interest over the term of the mortgage. So being able to write off that interest is really nice. And long-term holds. So you will hear Tim and Azad talk a lot about what type of property are you purchasing and what are those goals. And again, I ask those same questions when we're doing a mortgage application, because your answer, what your goals are for that specific property, plus what your goals are for long-term, is really going to determine, okay, what order we do, what type of properties are we purchase. And so taking a 30-year amortization on a long-term hold, the goal isn't necessarily to pay the mortgage down as quick as possible. It's more cash flow. So taking 30 years to pay it off doesn't really matter because you're planning on holding onto that property for a long time.
Awesome, Danielle. Yeah, people have to understand that it's all about getting the property. We know people get hung up on financing and stuff like that. Tim, when we were buying properties, we had interest rates of 6%. Okay, and if we didn't buy those properties and we didn't take action, most of those properties doubled in value. And it's even like people like today, well, where's the value going to go? The average price is only 480,000. We see it going to 580, 680. Like people out there might be thinking that's crazy. It's not crazy. You look at Toronto and Vancouver that are over $1 million. That's crazy. And people are just going to realize that Calgary is affordable. There's going to be more jobs here. We've seen it before. What we're talking about isn't something that we're inventing. This has happened 3 or 4 times in the history of Calgary. It just repeats itself. So it's very, very exciting. Just a quick question from Teresa, Danielle. How can I buy a home without using any of my own money or down payment from her personal savings, I guess? What is the best strategy to do that? So Danielle, I'll let you answer, but I was thinking a JV partner getting 90 days in the bank account and then going from there, basically.
Yeah, so JV options are fantastic. We're working with a few clients right now where maybe their qualifying ability is maxed out personally. They've bought more properties or just the right amount of properties, I should say, before the bank says no to the next one. So then, yes, JVing with somebody, which again, reach out to Tim and Azad, you guys, because they have a whole network. When you JV with someone, there's a bunch of different ways you can set up JVs. I won't get into that tonight. Tim and Azad do have a JV entire presentation, so tune in for that. Reach out if you want more information on that. But essentially, if you can qualify as the buyer and you don't want to use any of your cash, you could get a JV partner who has cash who maybe can no longer qualify because they've accumulated too many properties. You can go together, use that JV partner's money, but use yourself for qualifying. Key things there, and again, reach out if you have any questions, but key things there is that we have to show the down payment as your own money or as a gift. So we'll get into gift too. But with a JV partner, we would want them to open a bank account. You could jointly own that account with them. And we want that money to sit in that bank account for 90 days. And then you can use that money as though it was your own money and apply for the mortgage financing that way. So that's one way. A second way is a gift. So if you do have a family member that wants to get involved, you can do a gift letter for down payment. So there are different ways of using your capital. Same thing. If you already own a property, we can also look at taking the equity out of that property. So not touching savings or investments. Lots of investments are doing great right now. So we're seeing people not necessarily want to dig into those. So just recently we have a client who we refinanced their current property that they own and pulled out some of that equity and are using that equity for the down payment on the new property so that they're not having to reach into their savings. So great question. Okay, so Another thing, we touch on is interest rates. So as Azad mentioned a few times, interest rates are important, but they're not the most important. We need to always remember that when we're doing investing. If you want just the best rate, well, maybe it's not the right order. Maybe it's not the right bank to purchase that property. Maybe we need to save that financial institution for property 3. So it's really important to remember when you're coming up with an investment plan is that the rate has to be secondary. And we're not talking about, like Azad said, 5, 6, 7% interest rate. We might be talking about the difference between 1.99 and 2.09. So 0.1% we're talking about, but it may set us up for success. And instead of qualifying for 2 properties, maybe we can qualify for 4 properties by doing it in a specific order with specific financial institutions. So investment property financing, we focus a little bit less on the rate and more about the actual process and strategy. And then just to touch on actual investment property rates. So if you are purchasing a property as an investment, if you are putting down 20%, we are taking a 30-year amortization and we are buying it as a rental property. Potentially there's tenants in the home already. We're keeping those tenants. We're using the rental income to help qualify. Then those have slightly higher rates. We're around like mid 2% range for investment property financing. Again, phenomenal rates when we're looking at the history of interest rates. So if I can't stress enough, is that not to focus on the rate. We're talking about, 0.1, 0.5%, things like that. And it's not for the life of the mortgage, right? A term is usually 1 to 5 years long. So Azad, go ahead.
Hey, Danielle, another question. Dola's asking, do you need to have employment income to qualify to add more rental properties, even though you have 20% down payment?
So 20% down payment is great. In theory, it used to be fantastic. Now 20% down payment is kind of normal. So in order to not have income, we need to do instead what's called an equity purchase or a net worth purchase. So there are a couple programs out there that are designed for people that don't have income, but you do have to have typically 35 to 50% down payment. Or under net worth programs, you need to usually have $250,000 of liquid assets plus $1 for every dollar of mortgage that we need to borrow. So they are more intense with regards to assets. Standard financing is really about income. So to add more, typically we're going to see that we need income. Now on the flip side though, if you have cash, you could again JV with somebody else who can qualify for the mortgage. You can provide the cash. So then you're still obtaining investment properties, maybe 50% ownership and someone else is going on the mortgage, but you're providing the cash. So there are ways around not having income to still be able to invest. And a JV is a great option for that. Okay, so I wanted to touch base on suited properties versus illegal properties. Or illegal suites, I should say. I do get this question quite often. Can I rent a room out to a roommate? Can I have a buddy rent a room? If I have an illegal suite in the basement, can I rent that out? So yes, you can absolutely rent out any part of the house that you would like to. Does that mean we can use that rental income to qualify for a mortgage? Not necessarily. So in the eyes of the bank, there's a couple, I don't want to get into it too much. So reach out if you have really specific question, you guys, but there's A-side financing and B-side financing. A-side financing, best rates, major financial institutions. B-side financing, slightly higher rates, lender fee, smaller lenders. On the A side, which is, your Scotias, your First Nationals, your MCAPs, all of those major companies, they will only use rental income for a legal suite. So it must be legal. So if we need that rental income to qualify, then we'd be looking for a legal suite to use that rent. On the B side, though, they will allow room rentals and illegal suite rentals to help us qualify for financing. So there's different guidelines for different banks, but typically if you're looking for best financing, then in order to use any rental income, it does have to be a suited property. So to give you an example, and this comes back to the types of properties that Tim and Azad recommend and are showing you, depending on your budget and price range and what your goals are. But oftentimes what we'll see is we'll see clients purchase a property that either already has a legal suite or has an illegal suite that our clients convert to a legal suite. So when we're qualifying for more properties, ideally, if we can use these legal suite incomes, it's going to help us qualify for the next property. So let's say we own a property, it's got an up down and it has a legal suite. So instead of renting out a house for, let's say, $2,500 a month, we could show the bank $1,000 for a basement suite, plus $1,200 for the upstairs, plus $800 for a carriage suite, things like that. So we can actually obtain more rental income if we have legally suited properties. And then when we're doing the math to qualify for properties 2, 3, 4, 5, for example, that higher rental income obviously helps us add income to the application, which helps us qualify for those additional properties. So legally suited properties are great options for investors, not only from a cash flow perspective, but also from a mortgage qualifying perspective. Okay, so another thing to talk about is market rents and actual rents. So this is another question I get a lot. Oh, Tim or Azad, did you want to jump in?
Just quickly to everyone listening. So every property we're buying, we're setting it up to actually turn it into a legal suite. The reason why we do that with our investors is so the bank can see that as a identity on itself, and it's paying for itself, and then you can move on to buy another property. So what does that look like? It's stressful on Danielle because when we're buying properties, we need to get our contractors in straight away to work out how we're going to legalize the property. And I know Danielle's probably going to get into mortgage plus improvements later on, but we're using that program. So we use the bank's money to turn the property into a legal suited property. And then that way our clients can go on to buy more properties. If you have been on our Crew TV, which is on YouTube, you'll see a young guy named Connor who actually, he just legal this week, right?
Yeah, he's getting a sticker in the mail next week, I think.
Yeah, he's getting a sticker in the mail next week. And guess what? He's already on his way to buy his next property. The first property is basically living for free in there. And now he can go on. I wish we did this when we were young. He can go on and buy his next property and be at peace. Like we get this question all the time. Should you be getting more mortgages? I mean, if it stresses you out, no, you shouldn't be. But if you do it properly and we're helping you choose the right property, there is no stress. Like we're aiming for 100% occupancy. So we're aiming for that property never to be vacant. They're the types of properties we want to buy our clients. They're the types of properties that we are buying our clients, and our clients get stressed. Like Tim says this all the time, you got to be patient with us because you're making the biggest investment decision of your life and we want to get it right. You're hiring us to get it right. It costs you nothing to hire us. And we're making sure that it ticks all our boxes. I mean, Tim, we're so selective on every property that we have to say, no, you're not buying this. And we've got clients that will turn around and buy it. But if it's not going to turn into a legal suite and it's not going to help them buy their next property, it's just not worth it. So I just want to jump in there. Thanks, Danielle, and say that part.
Yeah, no problem. And it's funny, like I'll just touch on that really quickly. Having the right realtor is so critical because I will get clients that come in and will already own an investment property or want to turn the property that they bought into an investment. And we're trying to qualify for the next property. And it's like, oh, there's a negative cash flow on that property that you own, that you bought because you didn't look at it from the right perspective. So yes, Tim and Azad, you guys are very selective, but when I go help clients on their second, third, fourth properties, your property is always cash flow. So thank you for that. So, you know, it's really is key to have the right people in your corner. Okay, so market rents versus actual rents. So some of you may never heard of what market rents are. So this became more prominent, I would say, within the last 3-ish years in the mortgage world, is that if you own a property that you are moving out of, and let's say we're moving into the next one and you want to turn that property you already own into a rental. When we're applying for financing on property number 2, we obviously want to show rental income on property number 1, but you haven't moved out yet. So a common question I get is, how can I use rental income on the property I'm moving out of if I don't have a lease signed, I'm moving out, I don't have tenants yet? No worries. we can order a market rent letters. So what happens is your broker, we get the mortgage approved. And then what we do is we order this letter from an appraiser. An appraiser may call you to ask a few questions and say, okay, how much or how many bedrooms do you have? How many bathrooms do you have? What's your development like? Do you have parking? Things like that. And then they will come back and determine, okay, this is an approximate rent that you could rent that property out for. We then get to use that rent letter and provide it to the bank. And the bank says, okay, yep, on average, the appraiser says you can get $1,800 a month for this property. We'll use $1,800 a month in your application. So it's another great way when you're moving out of a property in what we call the move up program, which I'll touch on again in another slide a little bit further down the road. We can use rental income even if you don't have that property rented out. And same goes, I have a client right now who currently owns a rental property. It is listed for sale in another province. We are still able to use rental income on that property, even though there are no tenants in the property currently, because we're going to order a market rent letter. Okay, so obviously that compares with actual rents. If you already own 2 properties, you live in one and you have one rented out, and you have that property like full on rented with a lease agreement, and you can provide a lease agreement as well as 3 months of bank statements showing you've gotten rent for the last 3 months, then we can use your actual rents and we don't have to pay and obtain that market rent letter. So either way, we're able to use rental income. Okay, so rental spreadsheet. So this is actually one of my favorite things to talk about. Very few people know about these. Very few brokers know about these, which is again why it's so critical to make sure you're talking to the right people when you're doing your investment plan. Rental spreadsheets were introduced in the last 4 to 5 years. They became really more popular, I'd say 3 to 4 years. More financial institutions are using them. Now, what a rental spreadsheet is it literally is a spreadsheet. I've had people ask before if I can share them. I'm not actually able to, and it wouldn't matter anyways. It's quite foreign. It really would only make sense in our mortgage broker minds, in the mortgage broker program, how the numbers all work together. But if you do have specific questions, just reach out and call. But these rental spreadsheets are different for every financial institution. Again, not every financial institution offers them. It's a way for us to enter in the rental income, the mortgage payment, heat. So that's one of the requirements we have to plug in when you're buying a home, and condo fees. So they take into and property taxes, sorry, they take into consideration those items, and they do an internal calculation, again, depending on each bank, and it spits out a number, either a surplus or a deficit. And then we take that surplus or deficit and we either add the surplus in the application as income, or we take the deficit and add it as a debt. Now, these spreadsheets are phenomenal. It can be the difference between qualifying for a property and not qualifying for a property. And again, every bank has their own spreadsheet. So typically, and this is a common question I get, is my property cash flows. I get $2,000 a month of rent. My mortgage payment is this. My taxes are this. My heat is this. And my condo fees are this. So that property shouldn't count. But unfortunately, that's not how it works in the eyes of the bank, because the bank's standard quality will actually only use 50% of your rental income as income, but 100% of all of those debts. So all of the mortgage, the property taxes, the heat, the condo fees, but only 50% of the rents. So these rental spreadsheets actually end up using anywhere between 70 to 90% of the rents ultimately when they spit out the math. So it really can be the difference between being able to qualify and not being able to qualify. And like I said, every bank has their own, some don't even have any. So that's why the order that we purchase properties in and which bank we use for which property is critical. So when I ask you what your goals are, when we go through the planning process, it'll be, you know, my notes, I'll have, okay, property number 1, we're going to go with this bank or this bank, and we're going to use a rental spreadsheet or we're not. And this is how we're going to calculate the rental income. And so there's a lot that goes into figuring out, okay, how do we qualify for property 2 and 3 and 4 and 5? Some banks allow you to only use rental spreadsheets if you put down less than 20%. Some only allow you to use them if you own more than 2 properties. Some only allow you to use them if you're putting down 10% down payments or more. Some won't use them at 20% down payment or more. So like I said, there's a lot that goes in. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle when we're figuring out, okay, how can we help you accumulate more properties? This is a big, big part of that calculation. Go ahead, Azad.
Okay, one more question. Utsav is asking, for investment property, should we go for variable or fixed rate, as the rate would go up soon, and we want to make sure that the investment rate remains cash positive in the future, not just now? So
yeah, that is actually,
or are you going to talk a little bit about variable and fixed rates?
So I actually did a little, I think last week, a little blurb on variable rates, but it's not part of this presentation, but I'll definitely touch base on it. It is a great question. Your question is going to depend on what property you're purchasing, when you're purchasing it. So for example, our fixed rates, have they gone up? Are variable rates significantly more advantageous? What are rate predictions over the next 1, 2, 3 years? Historically, variable rates outperform fixed rates, but that doesn't necessarily mean that tomorrow the variable rate is going to be better than the fixed rate or a better idea. So it's kind of a loaded question, only because if you're putting down 20% down payment, taking a 30-year amortization, and it's a flip property, well then yes, we're going to look at a variable rate and we're not going to look at a fixed, because we don't want to have a big penalty when you go to flip the property. If you're looking at a long-term hold, we want to look and see, okay, well, how risk adverse are you? How much positive cash flow do you have if rates start to go up? And what is the spread between the variable and the fixed rate? Is it worth it to take the variable versus the fixed? So there is actually a lot that goes into determining whether you take fixed, variable, open, closed. And so then that's more property specific and time specific. So what exactly is the market doing at the time we're obtaining the mortgage? And what do we think the market's going to do over the next few years as to whether we take fixed or variable?
Yeah, so what Danielle's saying, it comes down to self-preference and how comfortable you are. The way we see it, if you didn't see our meeting 2 weeks ago, we actually posted it on our Crew TV, so you can find that whole seminar on there. And we thought it was important. That one was called how to buy cash flowing properties. And we do go through, Tim mentions about interest rates and the amount of debt that this country has and individuals out there have. They can't afford to raise interest rates too much. Like, no one will be able to afford that. So you just have to understand the economics of what's going on with this country and how they're going to get out of it. Our gamble, if we're buying a property today, it would always be variable, but that's up to you guys. So I just wanted to put that out there. If it's worth anything, Nacker is asking, is it possible to put 20% down on an investment property? I know I can definitely answer this for you guys. Yes, it is definitely possible to put less, but you have to have the intention to move into the property. If you're moving in, you can put 5% down. I know Danielle will go through our slides shortly on our move up program. This is how we've bought so many people rental properties moving forward. And Danielle will go through that in a second.
Yeah, exactly.
One more here. It's a pretty long question. Can you see it in your?
Let me pull. I just don't want to mess up my screen. I'm going to try pulling up the chat. Okay.
You're a Zoom champion, though.
I'm learning.
Do it, Danielle.
Okay. So when should you reach out to a mortgage broker for planning financing? You have 2 suite detached properties. Another one's 2. Okay. So definitely with property 1, long and short answer is that really, if you have any intention of purchasing and investing, then you should be trying to work with somebody who specializes in investment financing right from the get-go. I actually had a client who already owns 2 properties and had gone to one bank for both properties. And my response was, darn, I wish he had talked to me first, because I would have saved that bank for property 4 and property 5. So always property 1. Now, if you already own properties, obviously I would say the next best time to speak would be now before you purchase the next one, so that we can set up what those next ones could potentially look like. That process is an application, learning where your current financing is, learning where your goals are. It's all the same process. It's just that we now have 2 properties that we already have mortgages on, so we need to work those into the future planning for the next properties. Okay, so an example of a rental spreadsheet, just to kind of get back to this, is let's say you have a family income of $85,000 a year. You have a home, $1,000 a month mortgage payment, $2,000 in taxes, market rents of $1,600 a month, and you want to buy a new home for $300,000 with 5% down. Normal qualifying would put your GDS around 29%. So to touch on GDS and TDS, there's ratios that the banks require us to be. So when we talk about qualifying, that's what we're talking about, is your debt versus your income, and whether the bank says, yes, you can purchase another property, or no, you can't. So the GDS is gross debt servicing. That number is your income compared with the property you want to purchase. The TDS is total debt servicing. That's your income, the property you want to purchase, plus any outside debt you have, student loans, car loans, credit card debt. So in this example, you'd be at 29 GDS, which is great. It's below the 39 max, and your TDS is 49, which unfortunately is above the 44 max. So in this case, this client would not qualify to purchase that $300,000 house with 5% down. Now, if we take that exact same client, exact same numbers, but we use a rental spreadsheet from one of the financial institutions, that GDS stays at 29, but that TDS drops down 10% to 39, which is 5% below the maximum allowable. So like I said before, it's the difference between somebody saying to you, yes, you can purchase that property, and no, you can't. So knowing how to use these rental spreadsheets, knowing which financial institution to go to for which property, really is going to help you guys, reach your long-term goals of accumulating more properties. So overall exposure. So this is really important to consider as well. As you start to invest, you will start to expose yourself to more debt, more mortgage lenders, more mortgage insurers, and you will reach a point where, unfortunately, we have to say, okay, we're maxed out. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't purchase properties. Like I said, there's JV options for that, which again, you can reach out to Tim and Azad about. But as far as overall exposure goes, typically the trust companies maximum is 4 properties in your portfolio. So we try and use those trust companies first. Some banks will allow for 5-ish properties. There's regulations in there, how many of those can be rentals, second homes, owner occupied. And then there are a select few lenders that will allow for 6+ properties. When we get into those range, again, sometimes slightly higher interest rates, but this is why, again, it's important to set it up properly. We don't want to be using a 6+ bank on your first property. We want to save them for properties 5 and 6. So overall exposure is important to keep in mind. That's when I'm talking about interest rates as well, is that the rate isn't necessarily as important. We don't want to max out and use these lenders that we need for further properties down the road as it becomes harder to qualify, just because they have a lower rate. We want to maybe be a little bit flexible on the rate, flexible in the terms a little bit in order to save those for down the road. Okay, so joint ventures, we did touch on this a little bit, but just to kind of go back again, Tim and Azad do an entire presentation on joint ventures. But it is a way to qualify. If you don't have income, this is a great option. If you have some down payment, you can JV with someone who can qualify. If you don't have great credit, same thing, you can JV with someone who can qualify. If you can qualify, but you don't have the cash, you can JV with someone who can give you the cash and you can qualify. The key is the JV has to be separate. So not that I don't want to know about it, but from a mortgage perspective, once you are writing an offer on that property, that JV agreement is something you're going to arrange on the side. It's not something that we, know about as a broker, disclose as a broker, talk about, on a specific property. That's something that you would handle on the side with your JV partner. Reminders, couple quick things. If you are going to do a JV, make sure you reach out in advance, because there are certain things like, if you're getting money from a JV partner, that money has to sit in a bank account for 90 days before we can use it. You know, we want to make sure that it's set up properly, that you are all protected. So Tim and Azad have a fantastic lawyer, Taro Clark, and he can help with those JVs as well. Okay, so different types of mortgages and how to choose the right one. So this is where we will get into a little bit about the Move Up program, but there's, to kind of expand on how you can start to accumulate properties. We can do the standard rental purchase. That is where you put down 20% down payment. There's no CMHC, so it's uninsurable. We get a lease for the property if there's tenants already in there, or we can use market rents. You can take up to a 30-year amortization. Sometimes there may be a net worth requirement. Sometimes we need to show a bit of extra cash, and slightly higher rates. So again, what I touched on before is if we're purchasing it as an investment, your intent is to not move in. Your intent is to not have a family member occupy the property. And you are purchasing it with tenants that you want to keep in there that may already be in the property. Then this is the route we would go with a rental purchase. Okay, owner occupied purchases. So this is the Move Up program. This is by far the most advantageous way of accumulating more properties. Move Up is kind of self-explanatory. We like to start off with a starter property, move up to the next property, move up, move up. The ideal goal of this is to be able to use the least amount of down payment so you can really leverage your capital. You can buy, let's say you don't own any properties and we purchased property number 1. Maybe we don't start with your dream home at 600,000. Maybe we start with a townhouse or a duplex or a single family home that you can legally suite in that 350 to 450 range. Then once that one's suited, once you've owned that for a while, maybe you lived upstairs, rented out the basement. Now you're going to move out, rent out upper and lower, and occupy the second property. The benefit of that is that on property number 2, we can again put down just 5%. We show you moving into the property. Now we can use that rental spreadsheet that we talked about on property 1. We can use the market rents that we talked about on property 1. We can purchase property number 2 with as little as 5% down. So you're leveraging because we can show you moving into that property. Then let's say property number 3, we're ready to buy. Well, we do rental spreadsheet, market rents on property 1. Rental spreadsheet, market rents on property 2, property 3, show you moving in, little as 5% down again. So typically we can do 3 properties with minimum down payment and insurance. So CMHC, Genworth, or Canada Guarantee. Once we get to property 4, that's when we're going to start to have to increase our down payments because the banks and the insurers are starting to say, hey, wait a second, you own too many properties that are insured. Your exposure is too high, you need to start putting down 20% down payment. Now, again, when I'm talking about these down payments, obviously it depends on what you qualify for. Some people may only qualify if we put down 20%, in which case we put down 20%. Some people may qualify for 2 properties at 5% only. Some may qualify for 3 properties at 5%. So it's really going to depend on your individual qualifying. But that owner occupied Move Up program allows you best rates, best terms, most leverage for your capital with the least amount of down payment. And it allows you to typically accumulate more properties because we can access those rental spreadsheets on those properties that we already own and are moving out of. So this is, you know, the best program. If you're starting investing and you don't own a bunch of properties already, this would be the ideal way to do it. And then as I'm talking to clients, some will say, you know what, my end goal is to own 3 or 4 properties, but also own my own home that I want to live in. And so we'll go through, okay, you know, I know roughly price point wise where we should be for each of those rental properties, but what do you think your end goal property looks like? Is it 650,000 home? Is it 850,000 home? You know, so then we can also make sure that we're setting up your goals so that yes, you can accumulate your rentals, but also you can still accumulate that end goal family home that you want. Now, if we purchase that family home first, we can no longer do that Move Up program, and it really can affect how many properties you can qualify for. So yes, it's good to want that family home. And if that needs to be home number 1, then it does, that's fine. You know, you have to mix and balance personal goals with investment goals. But if you can hold off on that personal residence, if that's a higher priced home, then we can definitely reach those investment goals first.
Yeah, Danielle, I just wanted to quickly let everyone know on one of our clients, mutual clients here. I won't mention his name, but he came to us and he could qualify over 600,000. And we met him and we sat him down and we went through our planning and goal setting. And basically we didn't go for a property over 600,000. We ended up buying a townhouse in Silver Springs. And he's living there with his wonderful family. We then went on to buy him another property in Tuscany, and now he's done a joint venture in Minneapolis. So he owns a bunch of properties and is well on his way to get his dream home next year. And after that, he'll have 4 properties just by working with us within a couple of years. So I know everyone doesn't want to hear this, but the fellow we're talking about delayed gratification and did it the right way, and he will come out of this owning 4 properties. And if he went and bought exactly what Danielle's saying, the home that he wanted to start off with, there is no way he would have all these assets. And the name of the game at the end of the day is total book value. And as quick as you can get there with as little money as possible, if you can do that and pull it off, you've hit a home run all day long. So that's what we do for our clients. And some clients don't want to do it. And we're okay. We're okay with that. But we sit them down, and Danielle sits them down and says, no, if you do it this way, you'll probably end up with $2 million worth of real estate and you'll be set for the rest of your life. And thank God he followed our direction on it. So
yeah, a couple of questions in the chat. First one is from Blaine. He says, how long do you have to live in a property before you move up? There's no hard and fast answer for that question. One thing is if you do it over and over and over and over again, the Revenue Canada will eventually catch up to you and they will see it as income. You know, these properties that and the banks will then shut you down from doing the 5% mortgage over and over and over again. The rule of thumb is if you're going to move in and then do this move up program, if you're in there for a year and then you go with a different insurer for your next mortgage, you're not going to raise any red flags. But there is no rule for the exact set time. The reason for that is that people's lives change. You know, a couple may buy a house together and then get divorced a month later. And then one of them has to go and buy another house. So, you know, in that situation, they're not trying to take advantage of the 5% down rule. So you definitely have to live in the property to do the 5% down, but there is no set time. It's best to work with a mortgage broker so they can advise you on, you know, to make sure you're not going offside, because you definitely don't want to get on the blacklist of any mortgages or mortgage providers out there. So work with a mortgage provider or a mortgage broker like Danielle, who can advise you on, you know, the proper way to do it. So again, there's no hard and fast rule about it. The second question is, with paying down less, doesn't that affect your cash flow over time?
yeah, so Diana, that's a great question. When our clients are doing the move up program, we're only picking properties, once again, that we know once they move out that it's going to cash flow. So there is a sweet spot there, and the sweet spot is no more than $450,000 in purchase price. And if you're going that high, it has to be a suited property. So we know that. And if you're looking at condos, the condo fees can't be above $350. Once the condo fees, if you're buying in the 300, 320 range, once the condo fees are above 350, it blows your cash flow because you're only putting 5% down. There's not enough room there. So we're always working within that sweet spot. And once again, you want to pick up rental properties if you're putting 5% down. I know we're dealing with a young guy. I think he's a young guy, Carlos, who's sending me, he might be on the call tonight. If you are, Carlos, how's it going? I'm not picking on you, but Carlos was sending me properties that he wanted to go see because Danielle, he's financed up to 500,000, right? And I said, Carlos, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to go see properties over 450. We're going to stay as low as we can, closer to the 400 range, and then we'll work from there. So it does affect your cash flow, but you have to remember you're putting less down. So Tim has ran the numbers. If you're putting 5% down, you're putting 20K down on a $400,000 property instead of $80,000.
So it's a delicate balance. you might be giving up a little bit of cash flow, but you're retaining more of your cash on hand. And as the cheesy as the saying goes, cash is king in this business. So the more cash that you have, the more properties you can acquire, whether through a move-up program, through joint ventures, agreements for sale, whatever it is. The more cash that you have at your disposal, the more properties you can get under your control. So buying them at a lower down payment, you'll give up a little bit of cash flow, but your end goal is to control a higher dollar amount of property as opposed to just living off the cash flow of a smaller number of properties.
Yeah, so if you're in a good job and you're earning a good income, maybe that cash flow isn't really what you need. Maybe holding onto your cash so you can buy something else is exactly what you need. So it's just running that balance to see where you're at. And if things do get tight, we've got clients that will actually put 10% down or 15% down just to make the numbers work, depending on the property. So it goes case by case by case. It always changes with every different person, and every person we work with, we actually put a custom plan together, a tailored plan to make it work. And we'll tell you if it's going to work or it's not going to work. It's as simple as that. And when we're predicting cash flow, we're actually giving you numbers that are worse off. So you actually do better than what we're saying. And we could tell you people are getting roughly a 30% return right now on their investments that we're buying them. Sorry, Danielle, I'll let you go on, but I want to jump in there.
Okay, maybe you can answer this last question. It just disappeared out of my point of view. Can I buy owner-occupied purchase property with a joint venture partner?
Yeah, you can purchase any property with a joint venture partner. It's just going to, again, we have to meet the bank's requirements. So if you're the one qualifying for the mortgage, but the JV partner is giving you the cash, we need to make sure that cash sits in the bank account for 90 days. If you are the one giving the cash, then you need to make sure you open up a bank account for the person that's qualifying so it sits there for 90 days. But yeah, absolutely. A JV can honestly be set up however you want it to be. There's options on, exit strategies, all of that. So that's Tim and Azad, that's Tyro. They'll make sure everything's set up for you properly on the JV side of things. But as far as the mortgage is concerned, yes, just always disclose where that down payment's coming from. Or if you're working with a JV partner, I really want to know that up front so that I can help guide you on how to make sure we meet the mortgage requirements side of the JV.
Just quickly, Stefan does have a great question here. And just with the JVs, if I'm doing a JV these days, I love to do JVs with people that are living in the property. So owner occupied. I love that. I'll do that all day long. If you're doing it, it actually is a benefit because the deposit is less. It's as simple as that. And just a quick question here from Stefan, great question. I was wondering, how do lenders look at short-term rental income to qualify? So if they're on a 6-month lease, do they look at that, or does it have to be yearly?
Airbnbs,
Or
yeah, so that's a great question.
Yeah.
In that case, if you have oh my gosh, it's slipping my mind. What is you rent an Airbnb thing? I'm like, if you have like an Airbnb or a month-to-month lease or a short-term lease, what we would do is we would order the market rent letter instead. So to bypass that short-term rental income, when we order the market rent letter, we can disclose to the appraiser, listen, it is a short-term lease, client's getting $2,000 a month. So please make sure the market rent letter doesn't come in less than $2,000, but we would use the market rent letter instead. Same thing. If you bought a property, but it sat vacant for a couple months and you just started to rent it out, the banks want to see a 90 days, so 3-month history of rental income. If you don't have that, we'll just order a market rent. So always ways around it.
Awesome. Thanks, Danielle.
Okay.
The follow-up to that was, what if the Airbnb income is 2 times the market long-term rent?
The short-term rent, Airbnb rent, we actually don't really want to be disclosing Airbnb rents, things like that, not necessarily because they're bad, but because lenders don't want to get into that type of lending. So if you own 2-3 properties and you're going to buy, let's say, an investment property, and we disclose you have 2 Airbnbs, it's likely that the bank would say, I'm sorry, we're not interested in lending to this client because we believe that that new property is going to be rented out as an Airbnb. So we would again use a market rent letter instead, even though the rents might be a little bit less. From a cash flow perspective, it's great that you've Airbnb'd it and you're getting more cash, but from a mortgage qualifying perspective, it would still be better, even though it's less rent. So it might not help us qualify as much as using Airbnb rent. It would still be in the best interest of the overall mortgage application to use a market rent letter in that case.
Okay, then there's one more question. It's not necessarily for you, Danielle. It says for cash flow, should I buy an apartment first? To answer that, every investor is at a different stage in their investing. Reach out to us via email or text, and we can go over your specific situation and see. It all depends on how much you qualify for, what your income is, how much cash on hand, do you need a JV partner? All of those factors are put into place when we determine what type of property you should invest in first. So it's really, really investor specific, that question. Reach out to us via email and we can answer it.
Yeah, and just quickly on that, if you are thinking of a condo downtown in the Beltline, it is the most risky investment you can make in Calgary right now, only because of supply. We know the towers that just went up, they're all rental condos, like apartments. They're all rental buildings. So there is a massive supply coming on, and that's not going to help anybody trying to rent out in the Beltline. So you want to get the right property in the right area. We're only investing in condos in blue chip areas. And as Tim said, you'd have to reach out to us to see where we're investing. Okay, Danielle.
All right. So second home. So we went through investment property, rental purchase, owner occupied move up program. Second home purchase is another great program. So you are allowed to, if you're not necessarily going to move into the property, we could do a second home purchase. Now, second home purchases, you can put down as little as 5%. They're not as advantageous as the move up program, because on the second home purchase, we obviously would have to show you living in your current home instead of using that rental spreadsheet on that current home. So it's a great way if you're not comfortable with moving into a property. Another great way to leverage your cash and put down less down payment, still have access to best rates, but purchase it as a second home instead. Okay, so this is, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but refinancing. So for any of you who already own a property, we actually just went through this with one of our clients where they owned a property. It was actually the one that they lived in, and the mortgage, I didn't do the mortgage, but it wasn't set up in the most advantageous way to help them qualify for additional properties. So what we did is we actually refinanced that property. We consolidated some outside debt into the mortgage, because outside debt, as mentioned, does play a factor in qualifying and how much you can spend on the next properties. So we extended the amortization out, lowered the interest rate down, lowered the mortgage payment down, and consolidated outside debt into this refinance to set them up for the next purchase. So there, it actually worked out. It was a great property. It just wasn't financed in the best possible way. So not only did we lower the payment, not only did we consolidate debts, but we also were able to take out extra cash out of that property that they set aside and are going to use. They're working with Tim and Azad right now to look at potential properties, additional properties. So that was a way to get the down payment without accessing investments or savings, but also set that property up to help them qualify. In Canada, refinancing, this is a question I get asked all the time. If you sell your house, you get 100% of your sale proceeds minus costs back. If you refinance, it is the law in Canada that you have to keep 20% of the equity in the property. So we can refinance up to 80% of your property value. If you have a $400,000 house, 80,000 is the 20%. We can mortgage up to 320. So we can't necessarily borrow 100% of the equity, but once you build up enough equity in the property, we can borrow that 80%, restructure that mortgage, pull out down payment for the next property. Okay, so Purchase Plus Improvements, you heard Azad mention this earlier. This is a fantastic program. We did a ton of Purchase Plus Improvements last year. So it's a great way, like when we're talking about cash flow and you know, we're talking about upper suites and lower suites, and being able to obtain a higher rental income by having a legalized suited property. When you're looking and house hunting, and Tim and Azad are showing you properties, a lot of times we run across properties that the basement is an illegal suite, but it won't take a ton of money, a ton of work to legalize it. But once you legalize it, you will be getting significantly more rental income. So we can do what's called a purchase plus improvements mortgage. So we can purchase the home. I'm just going to see if I have an example. No, I don't. Okay. So I will go off the top of my head. So if my numbers aren't 100%, I'm not a human calculator. Let's say we purchase a property for $400,000 and it's going to take $20,000 to improve the mortgage. What we can do is we can have the offer for $400,000, get a quote for the work for $20,000, or, you know, let's be more realistic, 10 doesn't take a ton necessarily in the properties Tim and Azad show you. So that totals $410,000. Now you only have to come up with, let's say, 5% down payment of $410,000 versus if you legalize the suite yourself, you would have put down 5% of $400,000 plus put in another 10 of your cash to legalize it. So you're way further ahead by doing purchase plus improvements, adding the cost of legalizing that suite into the mortgage, and then putting down the minimum down payment based on that total. Now, purchase plus improvements, every lending institution has their own rules, their own guidelines. Typically, you have 90 to 120 days to do those improvements. So let's say you take possession September 1st. From that September 1st possession date, depending on the bank, you have that 3 to 4 months to finish the renos that you got a quote for. We can add the cost of the quote into the mortgage. A couple of things, again, lender specific. If you have questions, reach out. I don't want to go into too many specific small details, but typically purchase plus improvements, you can borrow up to 20% of the price of the house. Some lenders will max out at $40,000. Now, when we're talking with Tim and Azad and we're looking at properties, we've never even hit that close to needing that much money for purchase plus. Usually the suites don't require a ton of work. So we're usually under that 20,000 mark for sure. We do have to get a quote. So you heard Azad mention that earlier as well. It can feel a little bit rushed, but if you are thinking of purchase plus improvements, and it's really important to let your broker know in advance so that we can give you the right advice. So oftentimes what you'll see is you'll write a purchase contract. You'll write a secondary viewing in there so you can bring a contractor through. Usually within 1 to 2 days of writing that offer, you're able to get a quote. And again, Tim and Azad have amazing contacts for companies that will do those improvements and can get us quotes quickly. And then we submit the quote to the bank. The bank reviews the quote and approves it. How Purchase Plus works is you do have to cover the cost of the improvements as you're doing them. Then you get the money back at the end. So once you reach that 90 or 120 days, and those, or sooner, sometimes they're done in 30 days, and you reach that end goal and that improvements is 100% complete, then what you can do is we will order an inspection, and that inspection will confirm that the improvements are 100% done. And then once it's done, then we can get the money back from the bank. So you fund the improvements up front, let's say $10,000 or $20,000. You can use credit cards, lines of credit, JV money, gift money from family members, whatever it is. You can also negotiate with the contractor to see if they would be willing to start the process and get the money at the end once it's complete. I've provided letters before saying, yes, we're approved for Purchase Plus. Yes, the funds will be released once it's 100% complete. And some contractors are willing to wait until the end. So essentially you take possession, you get the work done. We send the appraiser out to do the inspection. Inspection is a big word. They're not looking to see, does it meet code? Does it do this? All of that. What they're looking for is checking off boxes. Okay, you quoted you're adding a bathroom, check. You quoted changing out lights, check. New carpet, check. As they go through the list, as long as you've completed all of those improvements, then the bank will advance the money that you added to the mortgage for those improvements. You can then write a check to the contractor or your friend, your family member, yourself, whomever covered the cost of those improvements up front. So Purchase Plus is a fantastic way to legalize a suite, get that rental income coming in, but not having to use all of your own money. So any questions on that one? That one tends to be a big question one.
This is a question from a couple of slides ago. Someone's asking, will a bank allow someone to have their primary residence in Toronto and then have a second home in Calgary?
Yeah, so that's actually totally possible. You can purchase a second home. The intent of the second home program is to either a vacation property, secondary use property. So let's say, for example, somebody who's commuting, or a family home. So a family home could be a purchase for a family member who may live in another province, who you are purchasing a home for. For example, we have parents who are purchasing for children who are going to university. We have brothers and sisters purchasing who, for family members that may not qualify. So yes, you can purchase a second home, an investment property, or a second home or an investment property, I should say, outside of the province where you reside.
Awesome. That's good to know. And there's no problem with it being less value in some cases of the first.
So, yeah, that's the benefit of the second home or investment program, is that if you already are living in, let's say, a $600,000 home, we can't do the move up program from there and show you moving into a half duplex at a $400,000 price point, for example. So what we could do instead is do that second property as a second home, or we could do it as an investment property, because then we still have to debt service and qualify carrying the mortgage debt, property taxes, heat, condo fees on the property you live in. We're not showing you moving out of that property.
Cool.
Okay, further to that question, someone's asking, what if I purchase for my kids who are actually small right now, the second home purchase?
So it's all relative. It's about your intent at the time of signing. I would say reach out to me. We could have more one-on-one conversation about that. Typically, when we're explaining to the bank who we're purchasing for, we can't really say, I'm purchasing a home for my 5-year-old, because obviously your 5-year-old can't live by themselves. But again, reach out directly and we can maybe have a more candid conversation about what the intent of the property is.
Cool. And Danielle, just finishing off on this slide, I know for our contractors, we roughly did, I think it was 17 basement suites last year. And I know for our investors that work with us, our contractors will generally take a 25% deposit when they start the work. And then if they know the funds are coming from the lawyers, mortgage plus improvements, they won't take any more money off our clients. They know the funds are coming. They'll complete the job within the 3 months and get paid the rest of the money. So no, you don't have to come up with all of the funds, just a portion of it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
All right. So that is it for my presentation. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to Tim and Azad or myself. I will put my information in the chat, but again, having the right people in your corner from the start is really critical. So don't hesitate to reach out. It's never too soon to reach out and see what your process should be, how you can qualify, how you should set things up.
Okay, so one more question, Danielle. Is it more challenging to buy a multifamily property as opposed to a single family or an attached home?
So yeah, it will really depend. Multifamily, once you reach 5+, you get into commercial. That becomes a little bit more complicated. It's a whole different type of financing. If you're looking at a duplex, a triplex, fourplex, the only thing is it's tougher from a perspective of the property has to be on one title. So if you're looking at properties that have 4 individual titles, then that becomes more difficult. You need to have one title. Again, we can show you moving into one of the properties if you don't already own a home. So it's really going to depend on your specific situation, but up to 4 properties is still residential financing. But yeah, some lenders max out. They want you to, be buying individual properties. Some are actually okay and prefer 2 to 4 properties. So it really is going to be specific on what do you qualify for? How do we want to do your move up goals if you're doing move up financing? And how do we qualify for you? But it's not necessarily harder until you reach that 5+ properties. Then we get into commercial, whole different ball game, whole different type of financing.
Yeah, we do a whole seminar on that. So
yeah.
We can go over that. Sue just has a quick question here. Can I use garage income 100% or 50% to help qualify. So that would be a separate lease. I mean, I would roll it into the lease that you have in total. So Danielle, what's the answer for that one?
Yeah, long and short is, unfortunately, it's not a legal suite, so the bank won't use that income to help you qualify. However, again, if you can rent out the garage separately, it's added cash flow in your pocket from a cash flow perspective. But like Azad mentioned, if you are renting to a family, let's say, and you're renting the whole house plus the garage, and you give them the option of including the garage for an extra $50, then as long as it's part of the main lease, we could use it as part of the main lease, but we just can't use it if it's a sublease with somebody else.
Yeah, Danielle, we really appreciate it. So if everyone's wondering, where do they go from here? Whenever people want to come to us, we always kind of redirect them to Danielle. We work out where you're at financially. If we don't have that information, we can't move you forward. And then when you get to us through Danielle, we put a plan together to help you move forward. That's how it kind of works with us. We're so busy, as we mentioned. Danielle's working currently with 35 of our clients right now, getting them up and going, and she would love to work with you guys that are willing to or wanting to get into this sort of stuff. We always stress real estate investing isn't for everybody, but it could change your life. It's changed our lives, and it's changed many of the lives that we've worked with, thousands of people since 2006. If you liked what you've seen tonight, please tell your friends. Just a quick recap of a couple of things. Tim, if you want to go to the next slide. If you are thinking of investing in real estate, go to our website, download this free book. It goes through the fundamentals of investing in real estate. I know Moyu was asking if tonight's presentation is going to go on our Crew TV. It is going to go on. We felt that this seminar and the last seminar is so beneficial to the people out there that they should be able to have access to it. Usually this content is reserved for our members. We'll just go to the next slide here, Tim, but you can download this free book. It's worth a read. Fearless Real Estate goes through all of the investment strategies that our clients have used. It gives you the meat and potatoes that you need to actually take action. It's a little different from other investment books out there. We spent a lot of time during COVID writing this. We're so proud of it. It's a fun read, and you actually learn a lot to help you move forward.
Yeah, and it's got every single real estate investment strategy that our clients use today and we've used. So it's not a lot of theory and conjecture. It's actual hard real estate strategies that we're doing right now.
Yeah, it's $20 Canadian. It's $17 US on our website, just because it's sold all over the world. And the main aim was to help you take the fear out of investing and take action. And it's certainly done that, Tim, for the people that have read it. So if you're serious of investing in real estate, and this is for the next level people, this is for people that want to create $1 million worth of equity through real estate. We take you through everything that you need to know to move you forward. We go through things like lease options, joint ventures, agreements for sale. And when we talk about joint ventures, we go through step by step by step, how to raise capital, who does what in the joint venture, what's in a joint venture agreement, how to set up bank accounts, how to set up corporations, how to write off things like in your taxes with rental properties. We also go through vendor takebacks and a lot more. It's not for everybody. We're not here to push it on everybody, but we're here to say that it's a really good program. We've paid for similar programs $17,000 for this, and you could buy in for $100 a month or $1,000.
And it also has our full landlord kit in there, which we give to everybody who buys a rental property, which has all the forms and the guides that you need to get your property rented once you do purchase a rental property. It's also got guides to guide you through the other strategies. Hours and hours and hours. There's probably over 70 hours of video on there of the different strategies. So, you know, it basically what we see it as is an all-encompassing program to go through every real estate investment strategy that you need to make money these days.
Yeah, we put some members together this year. One guy joined, he couldn't get financing. Another guy joined who could get financing, and we put them together. They raised $200,000. They actually bought a property that was off the market. We put them into that property, so they get privileged insight to properties that are coming onto the market. And now they're doing a flip, and they're probably going to make $100,000 to $200,000 off it. So that's just one story out there. If that's for you and you're thinking about it, reach out. We can tell you more about it. But once again, If you want to reach out to us, just send us an email. That is the best way to get started. And then we look forward to helping you succeed at investing in real estate.
So there's our contact info. Just take a screenshot of that. Call us, text us, email us. We'd be happy to help you out. If you just need to sit down with us in one of these boardrooms and go over where you're at and where you want to be, we're happy to help out that way as well. We've directed hundreds of clients to get in the right direction to make money with real estate. So if you want to do that, just go ahead and reach out to us.
Yeah, there's zero pressure on our end. We'll just show you what we're doing, what we can do for you, and if it's a fit. I hope everyone liked tonight. We're back on in 2 weeks. We don't know the topic yet. We're going to make it up, and we'll put it out on Meetup tomorrow. Please tell your friends and family. We're trying to get to 5,000 members before the end of the year. Help us reach our goal there. Thanks once again. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Thanks again to Danielle for presenting tonight.
Oh yeah,
Thanks, Danielle.
that was awesome, Danielle. This
See
felt
everybody.
touch for you.
There you go.